guys, it's ASBYT and welcome back to a brand new video. And today's an interesting one if you are a fan of Apple, because we're going to be talking about number one, the brand new iPad, which is due to be released this year, and of course, the possibility of a new touchscreen MacBook. So let's get straight to it. Right, so like I said, welcome back to a brand new video. Now, we are coming up to the period in the year, the calendar year, when, of course, I don't know why I said the calendar year, as if there's another year outside of the We'll move on. We've only just started. We haven't got time for that. So we're coming up to the time when Apple start talking about releasing new products. All the information starts getting leaked. We've got an Apple event. Actually, I'm recording this a few days ago, but there's an Apple event when I'm posting this, probably today, I think, 27th of March. They'll also have another event in June, and of course they then have their big releases for their phones, for example, in September time. So of course they are due to release a new iPad, and they are due to upgrade their MacBook series as well. So first of all, we're going to talk about the iPad. Now, of course, Apple pride themselves on their ecosystem. They sort of market their devices as sort of complete compatibility, where everything fits together, everything works, everything is really easy to sort of flow between the different devices. And this equilibrium actually changed last year because, of course, the 10 was released and it had no home button, it had new gestures, which was a completely different user experience to, say, using the iPad, which still has the home button, which doesn't use the same gestures. So if you've got both, it really doesn't feel very Apple. It can be, for some people, quite confusing to sort of get used to jumping between the different ways of working when they're both a touchscreen device. So as a result of this, they are definitely going to be looking to change certain things with the new iPad. The first thing, a lot of the rumors and leaks coming out of Apple is that they are going to be introducing Face ID on the new iPad. Whether this includes the dreaded notch or not is another matter. I personally don't think they will, because the iPad is, of course, a larger screen. The screen to body ratio, the sort of real estate that you get with it, is going to be larger than the iPhone 10. So they can afford to have sort of bezels running around the outsides and it still look bezel-less in a way, whereas obviously with the iPhone, because it was so small, they really didn't feel they could actually not have the notch. So I actually think they'll fit the front-facing camera and the sensors into the top bar, the top bezel, and just have a sort of a thin bezel all the way around, which will please a lot of people. Due to this ongoing trend of finding devices that have as much screen as possible, you obviously have people that worry about where to hold this massive screen and still be able to use the touchscreen facilities on it. Well, of course, you won't really have to worry, because Apple at this moment in time are probably the best, if not one of the best, at producing devices that have fantastic palm rejection. And even on the current iPad, you can hold it with one hand and almost rest your thumb and sort of this part of your... What's that part of your palm called? Anyone? Comments below. Oh dear. But you can pretty much rest yourself... But you can pretty much rest your palm on the iPad and still use the touch facilities with your other hand. Now, the next thing that's hot on the agenda for the iPad this year is the potential to use an OLED display over the LCD of previous generations. Of course, the latest iPhone, the iPhone 10, switched to having an OLED display over the LCD, which of course many people would agree that it is a better technology for a display. It allows for the fact that when you have a black part of a picture, it can shut off the pixels completely, so you get deeper, richer, darker blacks. So you get a better range of footage and pictures as well over that LCD, which has a backlight and it stays on all the time. But of course, OLED displays are far more expensive, so whether they will feel that they can do that with such a large display, of course, they would have to bump the price up, or they wouldn't have to because they make an extortionate amount of profit anyway, but nevertheless, they would at least have to keep it the same and potentially would be losing profit. So I'm not sure whether they will specifically jump to that. Also, they would have to have been finding out where they can actually get the supply from, because of course, as you may or may not know, Apple actually used Samsung for the iPhone 10 displays. And if you believe all the latest rumors regarding the new iPhone 10 Plus, which is due to be released this year in September time, Apple are using LG facilities this year instead of Samsung for a lot of those devices. So potentially they may be looking at using LG. But again, such a large display, I wouldn't have thought that either Samsung or LG could actually manage that high demand of displays, the size of the displays, as well as make their own products at this moment in time. So it'd be interesting to see whether they can actually do that or not. Now, there have been leaks that it is going to have wireless charging on the new iPad, but I'm not too sure about that leak because, of course, you'd have to think about the sheer size of the actual base. I'm not too sure whether many people would want a massive pad in order just to charge the iPad. I don't know. Pad on pad. New slogan for the Apple launch. Maybe. You can have it, Apple. If you want it, you can have it. Don't just credit me. They're definitely not going to use that. And finally, before we jump onto the potential for a touchscreen MacBook, we're going to be talking about the release date for the iPad. Now, there are three main sort of dates on the agenda this year for Apple. One is, like I said, the actual event today when this video is going out. Like I said, I recorded this a few days ago. And of course, it's an event for students and teachers. There are going to be some announcements from Apple. Whether they actually announce the new iPad, I don't know. If they don't do it today, again, it's hard because I'm not doing it in today. If they don't do it today, the 27th of March, then potentially June will be the next one where they do a lot of announcements every year at their June event. And then, of course, they have the release of the iPhone every year in September time. So potentially they could release the iPad in that September window as well. So they're probably the three main release dates that we would be expecting. We'll wait and see what happens today. Right, so now we're going to jump on to the potential for a touchscreen MacBook. And it's something that Apple have never done before. They've never had a MacBook or an iMac or anything that has a touchscreen facility. They've only ever had the iPhone and the iPad. Now, of course, Google have the Pixelbook, for example, which is a touchscreen device. Windows have always, pretty much since touchscreen has been available, they've always kind of had touchscreen tablets and convertible sort of laptops. But you would feel if Apple were to do it, it would be to compete really with the Pixelbook. Even though the Pixelbook has a lot of flaws which are well documented, it would still be, you know, on the market comparison with them. Of course, Windows is something almost completely different because they kind of had to jump into the touchscreen laptop and tablet market because their Windows phones, for example, just can't compete with the demand of Apple products and, of course, Android, which at this moment in time completely dominate that market. But here's the interesting thing for me. They've got a place, in my opinion, in the market for a touchscreen MacBook 12-inch or something along those lines, because they have quite a few different MacBook types that are fairly similar. Of course, you've got the MacBook Pro, which of course is for, you know, big performance, editing, that sort of stuff. You then have the MacBook Air, which of course is the smaller, more sleek, more portable version of a MacBook, and that option appeals to a lot of people that are students, for example, or people that just like to travel a lot and don't want to take a big MacBook Pro with them. But then you've of course got the MacBook 12-inch as well, which to me, I don't really feel you need the MacBook Air and the MacBook. I may be wrong. You may think that there is definitely a place in the market. Apple seems to think there is a place in the market at this moment in time for them. I'm just not one who thinks that it's necessary. I think if you want portability and you want smaller size, you will go with an Air. If you want a bigger, meatier, better performing unit, you will go with a MacBook Pro. And you've also got the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the 15-inch MacBook Pro. So even then you've got an extra option of a smaller version of a MacBook Pro. But the main point of this is that the MacBook 12-inch and the iPad at this moment in time, the iPad Pro, for example, are quite similar in size. They both have one port, for example, as well. And the iPad has a touchscreen, uses iOS. You have to kind of add keyboards to it and stuff if you want to type on it. Whereas the MacBook has all that, but doesn't have the touchscreen facility. And I think it'd be much better to make a product that fuses the two so that you can actually use the touchscreen device if you want to. But of course, you don't have to. On any touchscreen laptop, you don't have to use the touchscreen facility. You can if you want to. And of course, Apple, like I mentioned right at the start, they like to have this sort of seamless transitions between different products. I feel they could streamline their whole set of devices by making this product, which is in between, in that area of the market. And of course, don't forget, they already added the touch bar to the new set of MacBooks in 2016 and continue with it in 2017. I believe they're going to continue with it again in 2018. Anyway, what do I know? I'm not Apple. I'm not, you know, the head honcho there, but it's just something that I think would potentially be a good product. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this idea. Also, let me know what you think about the new iPad. Is it something that you are going to be looking to get your hands on? Even if you're a avid, diehard Android fan, kind of we've been seeing the recent trend that Android tablets have kind of been sort of fading out of the market, really. So is it something that you may have an Android phone? Would you consider having an iPad as well? Do you use tablets currently at this moment in time? Or are they completely not your thing and you are happy with a smartphone and maybe a computer and that's you done? Or maybe just one of those things and that's you done? A landline phone from 1990. Anyway, like I said, let me know in the comment section below what you think about everything that we've talked about today. If you have enjoyed it and found it helpful, then make sure you drop a like on the video, share it with your friends and family if they're interested in new Apple products or just sort of new tech concept ideas as well. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post a video. I do tech videos pretty much daily on this channel, and I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. Sets PYT, peace out.